The distress beacon pulsed weakly through the void, a dying heartbeat in the darkness between stars. Captain Rhea Solon leaned forward in her command chair aboard the Meridian's Hope, her dark eyes narrowing at the fragmented signal cascading across her console. "It's Velkorian," her pilot announced, confusion evident in his tone. But the message? It's just coordinates in a single word. Disposed. Rhea's jaw tightened. The Velkorians were known throughout the galaxy as cold, efficient traders, a species that valued profit over sentiment. Whatever they'd disposed of, it wasn't her concern. She had supply routes to maintain, colonies depending on her cargo. And yet, set a course, she heard herself say. It's only 30 minutes out of our way. Her crew exchanged glances but obeyed. Humans had earned their reputation in the Galactic Council for this exact tendency, the inability to look away from suffering, even when logic dictated otherwise. The other species called it a weakness. Rhea called it being human. The ocean moon of Tethys 9 stretched below them, its surface a churning mass of violet waters and violent storms. The coordinates led them to a floating detention cage, half submerged and listing badly. Through the Meridian scanners, Rhea could make out a massive shape inside, struggling against chains that sparked with containment energy. "Captain, that's a Korath-class combat beast," her security officer warned. "Velkorian warstock. Those things are bred to kill." Rhea stood already moving toward the shuttle bay. Then why abandon it to drown instead of terminating it cleanly? No one had an answer. The shuttle descended through Tethys 9's atmosphere, buffeted by winds that would have torn apart lesser vessels. Rhea piloted with steady hands, her heart hammering as the cage grew larger in her viewport. Up close, she could see the creature clearly, a magnificent being that resembled the ancient lions of Earth but scaled up to nightmarish proportions. Its mane crackled with bioluminescent energy, and its 6 legs churned uselessly against chains that bound it to the sinking cage floor. Massive amber eyes locked onto her shuttle. Not with mindless rage, but with something that stopped her breath. Intelligence. Scanning for cognitive function, her AI assistant chimed. "Captain, this creature registers Class 4 sentience. It's sapient." Rhea's blood ran cold. The Velkorians had chained a sentient being and left it to drown. She didn't hesitate. The shuttle's cutting laser made short work of the cage's upper bars. Water poured in as the structure groaned and tilted further. Rhea extended the magnetic grapple, but the creature, Korath, she reminded herself, it had a species name. It was a person, thrashed away from it, suspicious. "Easy," Rhea transmitted on all frequencies, hoping the universal translator would work. "I'm here to help." The water was at the creature's shoulders now. Those intelligent eyes studied her, calculating, weighing trust against desperation. Then, with a grace that belied its size, Korath stopped struggling and allowed the grapple to attach to the chains. The shuttle strained as Rhea pulled upward. Alarm screamed. The cage was breaking apart and Korath was still sinking. Without thinking, Rhea sealed her suit, explosive bolted the shuttle's side door, and dove. The violet water was freezing and thick as syrup. Her suit's lights barely penetrated the murk. She swam down to where Korath hung suspended, those enormous eyes watching her approach with something like wonder. The chain's locking mechanism was Velkorian, complex, coded, designed to be opened only by its owner. Humans, however, had earned another reputation in the galaxy. They were exceptionally good at breaking things that weren't meant to be broken. Rhea pulled the plasma cutter from her belt and began slicing through the energy-reinforced links. Sparks danced underwater, and her suit's temperature warnings flashed red, but she didn't stop. 1 chain, 2, 3. Korath began to rise, using its powerful legs to push upward, but the final chain held fast, the one around its throat. The lock was too sophisticated. The cage groaned and began its final plunge. Rhea looked into those amber eyes and saw acceptance there, a warrior's readiness for death. "Not today," she growled, and jammed the plasma cutter directly into the lock's control node. The explosion threw them both upward. The chain shattered. Korath's massive form surged past Rhea, instinct driving it toward the surface. She felt her suit breach, water flooding into her helmet, and suddenly powerful jaws that could have crushed her in an instant, closed gently around her torso. Korath pulled her upward, into air and light and life. 3 months later, the Galactic Council chamber buzzed with unprecedented tension. Captain Rhea Solon stood at the human delegation's podium, and beside her, impossible, unthinkable, stood Korath. The massive being wore a translation collar now, its bioluminescent mane dimmed respectfully for the formal setting. The Velkorian ambassador had gone the color of ash. "You abandoned me to die." Korath's voice rumbled through the chamber, each word carrying the weight of profound intelligence. "Because I questioned an order to execute prisoners. You deemed me defective for possessing mercy." The chamber erupted. Humans had brought more than just a rescued beast. They'd brought evidence of a truth the galaxy had tried to ignore. The combat beasts weren't beasts at all. They were people, bred into slavery, their sentience suppressed through brutal conditioning. The Council had no choice but to act. Within weeks, Korath-class beings across the galaxy were being freed, evaluated, educated. Most chose to stay with humanity, the species that had looked at chains and seen injustice, that had dove into drowning darkness for a stranger. Korath never left Rhea's side. The Meridian's hope gained a new first officer, one whose strategic mind and fierce loyalty became legendary. Together, they continued to explore the galaxy's edges, and wherever they went, they carried a simple human philosophy. Every sentient being deserves a chance to breathe free. The Velkorians had abandoned their lion beast to drown, expecting nature to erase their crime. They hadn't accounted for humanity's stubborn refusal to accept that some lives were disposable. That single act of compassion rippled outward, changing laws, toppling unjust systems, and proving what the galaxy was slowly learning. Humans didn't just explore space. They brought their conscience with them, and that, far more than any weapon or technology, made them a force that would reshape the stars.